also living in Baltimore, number 24, the former Penn State star, Lenny Moore, and a threat to go the distance anytime he gets his hands on the ball. Moore is 6'1", 190 pounds.
The great thing about sports is it brings out onto the front page, on the television, our real problems in this country. The thing is that sports brings it to the forefront. We can see it there. There's no such thing as subtle racism as we see in regular life. I can remember leaving on a trip, the first trip, going through Virginia, the Shenandoah Valley, and then across into Tennessee, and up through the hills and the towns, and then over to Mississippi, into Alabama. You know, I started out, I was 24, 25 years old. That's a kid. That's still a kid today. But the one thing that I do remember was, and it was either in Mississippi or Alabama, somebody said, well, asked me what I did, and I said, I'm a scout with the Colts, and the guy looks out the window and sees this huge Lincoln Continental. Somebody called it Moby Dick. And he said, ain't no scouts around here that drive that damn thing. And I said, no, I really am a scout. And he said, well, yeah, you're 5 years removed from our last lynching. And I went like, really? I didn't say anything. But I thought, wow, this is reality.
But the whole trouble with this integration business is that in the end, it probably will end up with mixing socially. And you will have, well, I think their aim is mixed marriages and becoming equal with the whites.
It's what I would call the ultimate wake-up call. You know, now you're here.
I'm not for integration, I'm for segregation, and I will be until I die.
Mississippi is a state that has consistently resisted any move to rid itself of racism.
It was American apartheid. It was South Africa before South Africa. And you could drive through these little towns and the African-American community totally separate. And only would maybe come to town to go to the store, something out of a movie. To be a scout, you had to drive to these places. You couldn't fly into them. And you would see it. It was a separate world.
Go. Young guys, pay attention.
We're going to run straight at him.
I'm still going to Alabama with Bear Bryant there, and Mississippi with Johnny Vaught. But I kept saying to myself, I've seen some pretty good players, but they're not as good as the players I'm seeing at these African-American schools.
Good. I don't care who you are. I'm going to do it for one of you. Ready? Buck. Let's go, Buck. Good, Buck. Good, Buck. Good, Buck. Buck.
I never heard of Selma until I kept getting closer and closer to Selma because I was going to take it through and go on to Birmingham to the University of Alabama. You know, I'd listen to radio reports. Well, Martin Luther King will be arriving and there's going to be a march across Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Be detrimental to your safety to continue this march, and I'm saying that this is an unlawful assembly. You are to disperse. You are ordered to disperse, go home, or go to your church.
And so, as I got closer to Selma, I stopped at a gas station. And I said, fill her up, whatever else is, and I wanted to go to the bathroom. And I get out and I looked over and it said whites. Now I knew this. It said whites and then it said blacks or the N-word. I emerge from it, get in my car, and I say to the guys pumping the gas, I said, geez, that's terrible. The two words that could have cost me my life. And he said, listen, I think he said something, listen, you son of a bitch. If you don't like it, he said, I'll go back in and I'll get my gun and blow your brains out. He wasn't kidding. And so I quickly said, thank you, sorry, and took off. I always had these, the thoughts about, Jesus, one wrong move and I'm going to end up face down the Chattahoochee River somewhere. And that was always a real concern. I've seen history. I've seen history more than anybody. And I've seen history of race in America through the eyes of sports, but also the outside eyes.
We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
It's easy for us as white people to say this, but suppose I was Art Shell. Suppose I was Jerry Rice or Otis Taylor. How will I really even feel today? I made it. I'm happy I made it. But there is a difference.
Lenny Moore taking the handoff from the quarterback, John Unitas.
I can think of all of those great players. I knew a lot of them. And I said to myself, if I was sitting here today, would I be bitter? I think I might be.